Hi, I'd like to make a quick video update regarding this modified camelus swedge knife that I'm calling the Swedgelord. Kind of a swayback Warncliffe, somewhat modified profile. A little bit of sweep on the belly there, quite robust at the tip, and this twine carta handle. So let me just put a little oil on this. The feel is in the hand is kind of like a smooth rock, slightly warm and grippy. Smooth, but yet grippy. It's a pretty heavy knife. Actually, I forget the exact weight, but around 8 ounces. So I'm working on a sheath. I'm still using the original sheath here on the belt, but it's not that great. This is made from offcuts, so I'm running short of space to make stitching here, but in principle we're going to have a detent, and started gluing it together this way to start stitching and wet forming, and then I remembered to put the belt loop on. So the first welt here I glued on with epoxy. After that, because I had some epoxy that I was using for this handle, since then I've been going with contact glue. And my plan, in order to get the stitching lined up, is to drill through this side. I'll have to line it up, you know, it's just enough room there. Drill all the holes down here, then I'll glue together, and then I'll go all the way through. And I'm making a drain hole. So that's the Swedgelord. Here's a knife I made about a year ago, maybe more. I call this one the Arcadia with the triphasic grind. It occurred to me looking at it that I never really saw it as a modified Warncliffe before, but you know, it is really a modified Warncliffe, actually, a modified swayback Warncliffe. You know, if you just look at the spine, if we just cut that, all of that out there, have a swayback Warncliffe. So this sheath that I made for this one, I used the kind of sandwich construction rather than the taco construction. Drilled the holes with a Dremel, kind of missed on one of them. There, that's around the back so you don't really see it. Drilled the holes and went through with the stitching oil, which uses this very nice thick thread. And I was told later that I should have slit into the leather along the stitching so that the stitching wouldn't be standing proud, which seems like a good idea. But because this thread is very thick and robust, you can see it's holding up okay. And the knives are very similar in weight, these two, about the same stock thickness. And the handles are kind of similar. You know, kind of like a swayback handle. There is some difference down here. You know, here this kind of straightens out more, whereas here we got more of a, what do you call it? More of a pear shape. They're both very comfortable in the hand, but certainly now that it's a little cold and this metal is cold. You know, you still feel that tapered tang there. And grip wise, I'd say that this, I don't know, similar. This is oily now, so. However, balance wise, this one is more front heavy, you know, it's a little more choppy, and this one is the weight is a little further back. So I made this to be my everyday do anything belt knife, you know, bushcraft, survival, and whatever. And I do use it for that, but I kept on collecting knives and experimenting, so it isn't technically my everyday belt. I switch things out. And I had a yin to carry this one. I really like this knife. Here's a little piece of lilac to demonstrate how one can whittle rather nicely with this knife. The handle is very comfortable. The blade works really well for this kind of task. And especially this here. If you've got something like a pucco, something with something with a sway on the tip, then it's not so good for that kind of task there. Looking around for a knife that has a sway on the tip to demonstrate, but you can clearly imagine, you know, if you have to get into different angles. I mean, it's fine. It's kind of down to preference. You know? You lose out also with the straighter edge on that belly. Very useful for certain tasks. This, however, I also used it for cutting the leather for the sheath, and that point is awesome for leather cutting. Just whittle on this for a second. I like to leave a little bit of this, you know, then I can get more of a grip on what I'm working on. But you kind of need to dig in here. So no drainage hole on this sheath. That was another consideration that I left out. In this instance, if I want one, I can just punch a hole down here, round the back here, and that will allow the sheath to drain. I don't think it's a tremendously important thing, actually, practically speaking, to have a drainage hole on your sheath, but it is a good touch, and if you buy a knife, it's one of those things you like to see. So I don't have the right diameter of brass tube. I'm looking around for my replacement solution here, but I have misplaced it. That's annoying. Well, I can explain what I'm doing. Actually, here's the first go around. So this is lilac stalk. Very tough. Looks just like whatever, like something like a dried stalk, but it is very tough. Great for I think I harvested this to make a fly swatter handle, but yeah, I kind of drilled it out, made this tube, and then when I was upping the diameter, that caused it to split. And that happened the second time around as well, but not so badly, and I just glued it. And what I realized with this is that, because I was thinking, well, maybe I could even put it on my mini lathe to round it out afterwards, you know, and get it right down to the, you know, a perfect little cylinder. And then I thought, well, how's that going to help me gluing it into this if I actually make it square? You know, I'll have the circular hole, but the outside I will make it a square profile, and then it'll sit right in there between this and the next piece of welt very nicely. So kind of an advantage over using the brass, unless you were to get some square brass, which I guess you know, square tubing, which I guess you probably could do. Well, what else? That's everything. I'm annoyed I can't find that little tube. Oh, here it is. So, yeah, this one I drilled and it split down the end here. So I just soaked it with Titebond and wrapped a rubber band around it. Actually be dry by now. Yeah. So I can think about what's the right approach for this. And here's where I think, you know, just what I'm doing right now could be an example of why I like this knife better for an everyday belt carry, given the life that I'm actually leading, over this monster. Because I can do this task with this too. But for one thing, this is a demonstration, yeah, of, you know, it changes the angle of my wrist. It's a little more fiddly just to do this little whittling task here. I guess I could go in down here as well. Well, yeah, isn't it? I don't have enough of a grip. If it were longer, then I could use this area here. Well, I can anyway. Where there's a will, there's a way. But yeah, you know, if you got to slash a box, or you got to, you know, even just baton a little bit of kindling, this will do it better. But I'm sure you see my point, right? There's a reason why generally people go with simpler knives, design-wise. Putting some swedging in on the tip here. I think that's going to help. Yep. Something like that. Drainage hole. Thanks for watching.